Movies. What better way to escape the monotony of our lives than to sit in a dark room with a bunch of complete strangers, giving each other handies? That handies thing isn't in the script? Okay. Well, what if I told you there's a better way to experience a movie? What if you could step inside your favorite handy? No, movie. What if you could step inside your favorite movie? Would you? With only 100+ years making films, the future is ours to write. What do you want the silver screen to look like? Will movie theaters go away? Will 3D technology turn into holographic theater?
If you can hear me,
make a gesture.
Where do video games tie into all this? Lightsabers? Virtual reality? Total Recall? We're not there yet, but it's closer than you think. Let's look back on how exactly movies got here and see if we can't figure out what the future holds. Welcome to Film School, you screen-obsessed dorks. From Renaissance paintings to Baroque opera to the development of photography in the early 1800s, we've been trying to make our creative experiences more immersive. And so the dawn of motion pictures arrived. In the 1890s, Auguste and Louis Lumière invented the cinématographe, translated as writing in movement. The cinematograph records, develops, and projects motion pictures from a single device. It was groundbreaking and mind-blowing. You get it. Meanwhile, in the beautiful state of New Jersey, why are we knocking New Jersey?
Why the are you puking right now? Let's have sex.
Oh, right. Thomas Edison invented a technology he dubbed the kinetoscope. So why is this important if the Lumières already beat him to it? Well, the devices give different viewing experiences. Edison's peep show was, in a sense, the first virtual reality. It's a stretch, we know, but more on that later. For the next 30 years, silent films dominated the silver screen, and an industry dedicated to producing motion pictures was born. But the industry needed a way to challenge stage plays and the opera. In the early 1920s, Western Electric introduced the Vitaphone at Bell Labs, an analog sound-on-disc system. The soundtrack issued separately on phonograph records that play on a turntable, physically coupled to the projector motor, allowing sound and picture to run simultaneously.
Whoopee! I found my voice!
Warner Brothers acquired the company and released The Jazz Singer in 1927, giving us the first talkie.
Nothing but fiddle bird all day long. You like that slapping business?
So how come everything was still black and white? Well, color photography was thriving, but color cinematography was expensive, impractical, and very complicated, requiring 3 strips of celluloid. In one breath, here's the original Technicolor process. To expose 3 strips of black and white film, the light passing through the lens is split into 2 beams by a prism. One beam goes through a green filter to block red and blue light. The other beam goes through a magenta filter, exposing 2 strips simultaneously. The front strip, which is sensitive only to blue light, is coated with a red dye that only allows red light to expose onto the back film strip. These 3 negatives were used to print dyed images onto a single strip of film, finally creating the full color projection print. But it was too late, because by now, TV kept people in their sofas. So to compete, the studios invented something that people couldn't experience on their tiny TV screens: the birth of large format widescreen. Interesting enough, what started as a gimmick has grown to become the commercial norm. Let's take a look so that you don't think I'm lying. Cinerama was a 3-frame system requiring 3 cameras to film alongside each other and 3 projectors to simultaneously project corresponding images side by side. 20th Century Fox introduced CinemaScope, their take on widescreen utilizing anamorphic lenses. These lenses stretch a wide image into a 35mm frame. When projected, a converse lens is used to squeeze the stretched frame back to normal. In response, the engineers at Paramount created VistaVision, a widescreen format that oriented the 35mm negative horizontally through the camera. This Super 35 format used more space on the frame and created a much crisper and less grainy film print. So the next logical step, large format photographic film for movies, IMAX. In the 1980s, they released an unprecedented 15-perf 70mm film stock and built massive screens that redefined the meaning of epic. Right now, a true IMAX theater experience may be the most immersive film-going experience, and filmmakers love this format. They even use it to emphasize the epicness of specific moments in their films. Now we've got the biggest screen possible, so what could make this experience any closer to reality? Oh yeah, it's our good friend 3D. Hey 3D, how you doing, buddy? I'm cool, I'm just being 3D over here. The way your brain determines depth is by interpreting 2 images produced with each eye. Stereoscopic cinematography uses 2 adjacent cameras to show each of your eyes a slightly different image, thus creating the illusion of 3 dimensions. But everybody knows this is just another grab at a few extra box office bucks. The 3D tech is advanced, but not as much as you might think. Crude versions of this technology have been around since the turn of the 20th century, and the first notable public screening was shown in 1922 using the red-green anaglyph format. We've replaced the red-green lenses with opposing polarized lenses, but that's about all that's changed. Meanwhile, at a Sony lab in the 80s, the concept of electronic cinematography is born. In 1998, HD camcorders and pro video cameras with CCD technology are rebranded as digital cinematography. Over the years, these cameras suffered many shapes and sizes until something magical, something completely unintended happened. The people at Canon added video capability to their still DSLR cameras as a fun addition for photographers to document the process. Now, everyone's a filmmaker. Even my grandma, and probably your grandma. All our grandmas are probably out making a movie together right now. Which brings us to today. With cost-effective standards from companies like Blackmagic and Red, we're witnessing the painful death of celluloid. And soon, the deaths of our grandmas. So where do we go from here? Look, sequences as early as the 60s and 70s used computer-generated images. And eventually, Pixar straight came correct and changed the gizaim with Toy Story. Now, in almost every studio movie, the line separating animation from cinematography is paper thin. Or no, celluloid thin. It's as thin as... Everyone knows that computers are part of the filmmaking process, but bear with me. I'm forming a new thought. 3D modeling is way better since the beginning of CG compositing. Better camera tracking, better lighting, better texture rendering, and better motion capture, now recording 360 degrees of information. This tech is used for such epics as the regurgitation of Fern Gully.
Outstanding.
However, at its best, computer graphics are stitched together with recorded footage to create spectacles that you actually want to see. This is the limit of filming an image, but there's a way around it. You're going to wish you thought of this first. It's called sonar scanning, otherwise known as 3D mapping. Radiohead's completely awesome House of Cards music video was the first, anything to record without cameras. It shoots out a ping to map the distance from a subject's detailed features. Think of a 3D printer that sculpts with light. Ready for my point? Well, the 360-degree scanning of information is the inverse process of projecting an actual 3D environment. I'm not talking about sitting in front of a screen with gimmicky glasses to watch an illusion, or paying out the yin-yang with a bunch of hipsters to watch Tupac come to life in a parlor trick on a transparent screen. I'm talking about walking around inside a building made of light, sticking your hand through a person made of light, and guess what? You've already seen the imaginary version of this. We can capture and create scenes in the third dimension with Z-Depth, so what's stopping us from experiencing a three-dimensional projection of this same information? Enter Microsoft Research with a new technology called Illumaroom, a gaming experience that utilizes Kinect and projector technology to create holodeck-style augmented reality experiences right in your living room. Sure, it utilizes 3D mapping, but there's still 3 projectors. The limitations of film technology stop at the very beginning. It's the key to filmmaking, the reason the cinema came to be, and the base understanding of human perception: light. The bottom line, we just can't control light how we need to. This is the reason we're stuck using flashlights as lightsabers. Help us, MIT. You're our only hope. But what's this? They're using rubidium atoms to form photonic matter? What took so long? Essentially, the molecules lose so much energy that they merge together to form a single molecule into what they're calling a lightsaber. Imagine using this technology to create entire environments. Until that day, we'll continue to formulate other, more immersive experiences. Remember Edison's peep show? Now remember the virtual boy? No? That's probably best. Virtual reality stems from the brain in a vat theory. If it were possible to stimulate the brain in the exact way that the outside world does, all the while keeping the brain bottled up, the brain itself wouldn't know the difference, whether it's inside a jar or outside a skull. You'd finally be able to step inside a space opera and be the hero instead of only watching. It's no wonder different methods of virtual reality are cropping up everywhere. Check this out. Take the Oculus Rift, a virtual reality that accurately tracks the movement of your head. For the first time, the possibility of a film that is not confined by a frame is possible. You'll be able to step inside of a movie, or at least in the case of Interstellar, you'll be able to look around wherever you want. Or you could strap an iPad to your head. It's not that much weirder than an Oculus Rift. One day, we'll plug ourselves right into the computer. But don't try that now, because it's actually a sex offense. So I leave it to you. Where do you think we're going? What do you want movies to look like? Let us know in the comments below.